Hello everyone, my name is Ogunoike Samuel and you're welcome to this YouTube channel. It's been a while I posted a video here and I sincerely apologize for that. I will do well to be more consistent in uploading edifying contents here that will bless you. Now, before we jump into the topic of today, I just want to reintroduce that on this platform we'll be talking about faith, purpose, and relationships. I believe these three are very important. When we look at the beginning, God created Adam, and Adam had to believe in God. He had to have faith in God as the author, as the beginning, as his creator. For that relationship to be honest, for that relationship to be strong, he had to have that faith. So faith is an important component of our being. It's when we believe in God and when we trust in Him for who He is that we are able to harness our ability and use them for what they were made for. Aside that was the fact that God gave Adam a purpose, He gave him an assignment, He gave him a job to do in the Garden of Eden. And so we find our purpose, our meaning in God. Aside the fact that we have faith in Him and we walk by faith in Him, we find our purpose, our usefulness in Him. And God didn't stop there. He looked at Adam and He said it's not good that man should be alone. And then He orchestrated the first relationship that we ever saw, which was between Adam and Eve. And when Adam saw Eve, he took her as his wife. All this is to point to the fact that in the beginning we had faith. We had to have faith to harness our relationship with God. He gave us purpose and then He gave us relationship. And these are very fundamental for human living and human being. Relationships, be it in marriages and love relationships, romantic relationships, they are all important and God desires that we have them. Now, let's go into our topic for today. It's building marital convictions. Convictions are very important. They are defined as firmly or strongly held beliefs. It's an assurance of something. You're sure that you have this thing. It's like a settled mind, a set mind on a particular subject or topic. And in marriage, we need to build convictions. Even before marriage. For example, if you look at what is happening in the Western culture today, certain children grow up and they begin to doubt their gender. They are not sure if they are males or females. And why is that? It's because in their upbringing, they are made to doubt their convictions. They are not given a conviction on a particular thing. You school a child and you tell the child that you can be whatever you want. It makes the child to doubt. But I remember when I was a younger boy, if I wore a female's clothes, for example, I'll be spanked and reminded that I was a boy or I am a boy. And so in that way, with that upbringing, my convictions grew. Now it's almost impossible for anything to happen and make me doubt my gender. This is also applicable to marriage. I don't know about you, but I've had situations where I started something and at some point I started to doubt why I even started it in the first place. I started to rethink my steps, and at some point I possibly even quit wherever it is that I started. Now, this happens to us frequently, and I want to believe that it may have happened to some of us before, but it shouldn't happen in marriage because marriage is so important. Now, I'm not saying that situations will not happen that make you to doubt your marriage or doubt your relationship or doubt your partner. No, they will. And that's actually why we're discussing marital convictions. But you have to be convicted in order for you to be able to withstand those doubts, in order for you to be able to withstand those situations. A great man once said that you go in the direction of your deepest convictions. That proves to say that what you're most convicted about is what you eventually end up doing and sticking with. And so when it comes to the topic of marriage, we need to build solid convictions. Now let's look at some biblical examples. First, we'll be taking a look at Isaac and Rebekah. Now, mind you, this is not an absolute case. We're just borrowing a part of this story, and it's the fact that Abraham had sent a servant to go and get a wife for his son Isaac. Now, on the quest to go and get this woman, so let's assume that Abraham's servant is the man who is about to get married now. He had reached out to God, the God of Abraham, and told him that he needed certain criteria to be met in order for him to know that this was the woman or lady that he had proposed for his master's son, which is Isaac. And so he set out some criteria and asked God to meet them. On getting to the well or the place where he met Rebekah, She met all these criteria. Now, the truth is that by virtue of what had happened there, Abraham's servant could go back boldly to Abraham and say that this is the person that God had directed me to choose. Now, even Isaac, who was out of the picture while all of this was going on, I'm sure if during the course of their marriage, if peradventure Isaac had doubted at some point if this was supposed to be his wife, by remembering the story of how the servant found Rebecca, he's convicted. Yeah, that strengthens his conviction. Now, I'm not saying that that's the pattern we should follow, our parents sending someone to get wives for us, or just going about fleecing, but I'm saying that convictions are very important, and it's important we build them before and even during marriage. Another example is Joseph and Mary. Now, Joseph was espoused to Mary already, and this girl that he likes, who is engaged with, so to say, comes with a pregnancy. He discovers that she's pregnant. Now, that is a big deal breaker for many of us. I mean, that's infidelity. That's what we'll call it, right? But he had a conviction. The angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and gave him, instructions on how we should go ahead and take Mary to be his wife. Now, at some point in their journey, in their marriage, I won't be surprised if Joseph rethought and was like, why am I even married to this lady? I mean, she's literally pregnant. Maybe then she was just a few weeks pregnant, but when she's like 8 months, it dawns on him again that I didn't impregnate this lady, but she is pregnant. How am I even married to her? She's carrying another person's child. She's not carrying my child. But because he had received a conviction, because he was sure, he had a firm belief that God was backing him on this quest, and that this is the person that he's supposed to be with. I mean, do you know what a privilege it must have been to be the father, earthly father, of the Messiah. Another person we commonly refer to is Hosea and Gomer. No one who in his right senses go and marry a prostitute, except if you're convicted, except if you're sure that you're supposed to do so. Now, this is not a license for us in our day to go and marry a prostitute or an unbeliever or just anybody because we feel we are convicted to do so. These examples are just to emphasize the fact that we need conviction in marriage, because we may be faced with challenges, we may be faced with reasons to doubt, and except we have that conviction, there is a tendency for us to go back. Now, I would like to state this as a burden. It's possible for you to be in the right relationship and still doubt. It's possible for you to be in the right marriage and still doubt your partner, and that's why convictions are important. Permit me to share a story. I know of a couple, a very lovely couple. They were doing very well, and maybe they were like 2 years into a courtship relationship, and they were planning to get married. And at some point during the relationship, the man decided that he wanted to go on a retreat. Now, a retreat, I don't mean he wanted a break from his partner, rather he just wanted some alone time with God. And he did embark on a retreat for a few weeks, let's say about 3 weeks. During this period, he was praying, possibly even praying for his relationship, for his partner, and for the marriage, receiving insights from God, and all of those wonderful stuff. And on coming back from this retreat, he, meets his wife to be, or his, girlfriend, and then she breaks the news to him, and that is the fact that she's doubting. She's unsure if he is the one for her. She's unsure if she is the one for him. She's unsure of the relationship, and she's not sure if they are exactly supposed to go ahead. Now, this guy who has gone to the mountain is coming back, who has gone to pray, fast and pray, is coming back to meet a situation where his partner is doubting their relationship. Now, at that point, you may want to think that, oh, maybe they are not supposed to be together, but good enough for them. They had some counsel, they prayed together and also separately, and they were restored. They came back together. Not that they left, but they built convictions. Now, this couple went on and they eventually got married, and it's good to say that they are happily married right now, doing God's will. Now, had that relationship broken down by virtue of doubt, it doesn't mean that God didn't want them to be together. It just meant that they didn't have convictions that were strong enough to carry them on. So that means that you can be in the right relationship with the right person and still doubt. Okay, let me put it this way. Not all breakups were supposed to happen. Not all breakups are because you're not with the right person. Not all breakups are because God didn't want it to be. It's possible for you to be with your God ordained spouse, and it's another topic to say, if it's only one person for you or not one person, that's a separate topic right now. But it's possible to be with your God ordained spouse and still have issues with convictions and still be sure and still be unsure rather if they are the one. And that's why we're discussing this topic, building marital convictions. And so that being said, let's look at 7 steps or 7 ways by which we can build marital conviction. Now, before I go on to mention the first one, it's important to note that convictions can be built in separate ways. And what do I mean? For some people, it can come by prophetic words. It can come by just reading your Bible, during a prayer session or through prayers rather, and through dreams, through vision. What's important is that the word of God meets you, or God's vision, God's prophetic word, or anything it ministers to you is held with strong belief in your heart. It holds substance in your heart, and that's when you are convicted. You have it strong in your heart. There is a strong knowing, and that's built on the way that God speaks. Number 1 is be open and sincere. This is very, very important. We're talking about building convictions, and so it's not trying to impose a conviction on God. Rather, it's trying to build a conviction from God. And so you have to be very open and sincere. You have to be honest with Him. If you are liking someone and you're doubting if he is interested or if he's approving of that relationship, you have to be honest enough to say that I don't know if you are approving of this. I don't know if I'm with the right person. I don't know if this is what you want me to do, but I'm seeking your help. I'm seeking your opinion. I'm seeking your counsel. I'm seeking to know your will on this particular issue. The point is, you have to be open and you have to be sincere. There's no point faking it. And knowing that God wants the best for you, knowing that God reserves His best for you, yes, in His heart, that's His will for you, helps you to be free with Him. I mean, there's nothing to hide, there's nothing to be afraid of. And so just be open to Him, be sincere, and allow Him lead. We need to realize that God is more interested in leading us than we are more interested in following Him. He's more interested in giving us clarity than we ourselves are more interested in gaining it. And so He's not the author of confusion. He's interested in you knowing. He's interested in you receiving. He's interested in you being sure of what He wants you to do or who He wants you to be with. And having that assurance allows us to, open up ourselves to Him and be very sincere, because He is a God that we can trust. Number 2 is by studying the word and praying. Yes, it sounds weird and cliche, but it's the foundation and it will always be. Praying and studying the word helps build your convictions. I've heard stories of people who, by virtue of reading the word, literally saw the name of their spouse come up. Now, I'm not saying that you should just go and read the Bible and see Mary and say it has to be Mary. But by giving yourself sincerely to the word, the word can come out to you and you receive it. Remember that the Bible is not just an ancient book. No, it's actually a living word. It's a living scripture, as in the Spirit of God breathes upon His word and it comes alive to us. So it ministers to us even in our present day. And so when you're confused, when you're seeking conviction on a particular issue, it's not just by praying and seeking to hear the voice of God. When you go to the Bible, which is the voice of God, which is the logos, the written word of God, you receive clarity. It literally comes alive to you and you gain clarity on a particular issue. Of course, praying too is important. By virtue of giving ourselves to prayer, our spirits, are more sensitive to receive of God, and our flesh is weakened, is subjected, and so we hear more of what God is saying through our spirit and less of what our flesh is saying. And so when we give ourselves to dedicated prayers, sincere prayers, where we are not just enforcing our will on God, but trying to receive of Him and build conviction in Him, we receive clarity. And He also confirms His word through different ways to us, which brings us to number 3, which is by prophetic words. Now, although this should not be solely relied upon, that is, you're not just going from one prophet to another prophet to hear who your spouse is supposed to be, or to give you a conviction on who your spouse is supposed to be, but we have to be open to the prophetic. The prophetic has been given to us as a blessing. It has been given to the body, even to the world, as a blessing. And so you should be open to the prophetic. The prophetic can serve as a confirmation to you. And being open to prophetic words, I've had, my own personal experience, and I've heard of other people's experiences, where, a prophet or someone gives a word that serves as a confirmation of what is going on in your heart, as a confirmation of what God is already ministering to you. So be open to the prophetic. You don't have to, despise prophecies. They are real and they do help, and there are genuine and good prophets out there. And so allow God use them, to be a blessing to you. But like I said, this should not be, like solely relied upon. It should serve as a confirmation on what is going on inside of you. It should help to build your conviction. Number 4 is be patient. Now, we're building convictions, and convictions are like foundations. And so there's no need rushing them. There's no need being in a haste, being in a hurry, to be sure or to make a decision. At least when it comes to, marital, choices, it's okay to take some time. And so by being patient, we realize that our convictions are strengthened. Now, when you subject, what God is saying to you to time, you realize that God is consistent, and so He keeps on repeating that particular issue. Now, permit me to just give an example, and I've shared it before, even on this platform, of how there was a time I liked a person, and I remember my spiritual mom telling me, "Oh, you know what? You like her, right? Come back in 6 months. If you still like her, then we can actually bring up a topic. But until then, I'm not going to take this serious." Now, there were two scenarios, right? On one scenario, it actually did end there. 6 months later, I realized that I didn't even really like this person. This was not who God was directing me to. What I thought I was hearing, I was not hearing, and that was the end of it. On another case, 6 months later, it was still there. And when I went back to meet my spiritual mom, it was like, okay, yes, now let's talk about this. So who is this person? We had discussions. The point I'm trying to make is that God is consistent. Convictions are consistent. And so when you're patient enough, when you subject it to time, you realize that you're still getting the same thing over and over, and it builds your conviction. I mean, imagine you go to God today and you hear, a particular word. You go to God in a month time, you hear the same word. 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, you're strengthening your conviction in that particular area. Now, this is not to say that once God has told you to do a particular thing, you should waste time. No. The truth is that as it pertains to marital, convictions, sometimes you may not be 100% sure. I mean, at the beginning, you meet a person, you sense a leading that I should be in a relationship with this person, in courtship, leading on to marriage. You may not be 100% sure at the beginning, and that's okay. But I mean, you should have a percentage of surety, of assurance. It should hold substance in you. And as time goes on, as you subject it to patience, as you subject it to time, it's supposed to build. And so it's okay to be patient, when building conviction. Number 5 is seek counsel. The right counsel strengthens your convictions. Now, note, emphasis is on the right counsel. You don't just go to anybody asking them or telling them about your relationship or your marriage plans or on who you want to get married to. I mean, different people can lead you astray. But seeking the right counsel helps you. It's okay to tell someone, about what you're going through. It's okay to reach out to, a spiritual head or, a counselor, or someone to just discuss, what you're going through. It helps to strengthen your conviction. In the multitude of counselors is safety. Many times we want to hold certain things back, and until they are official, we now begin to tell people. And sometimes that does us a great disservice by, opening ourselves up to right counsel. It speeds up the process. It helps the process. It helps us go through it well, and, it strengthens our convictions. And where necessary, it corrects us on, our convictions, and makes us realize that we may be going in the wrong direction. So we should be open to counsel. Talk to your spiritual head, talk to a counselor, talk to a mentor, discuss what you're going through with them, what you're feeling with them, and they can pray with you, help you, and just serve as a platform by which your convictions can be strengthened. Number 6 is have a picture of where you're going, or better still, have a picture of where both of you are going. Now, if I have had a dream before that God is asking me to go to a particular country or continent, to serve and, maybe to work there or do whatever. And someone else is, upping onto my boat, in terms of trying to make a marital decision. And the person is going somewhere else entirely. And the person has no business whatsoever to do with what God has asked me to do. Aside even location wise, I mean, in terms of what they desire to do, what they find themselves doing in the future, and all of these things, it can serve as an information to me to know that I'm not supposed to be with that person. But on the other hand, if we are both aligned on purpose and in what we're being called to do, it serves as a conviction. And even when there are challenges, remembering that this is what we've been called to do, this is the assignment to which we have been given, this is the purpose to which we're supposed to fulfill, it helps to know that I'm supposed to be with this person. It's like a key and lock. It's, I can see that with this key, with me being the key or this person being the lock or whatever the case may be, we can fulfill or do this particular thing we're supposed to do. The point is, have a picture of where you both are going, and seeing the picture consistently reminds you of the fact that you're supposed to be together. It serves as a conviction. And that brings us to the seventh and final point for this topic, which is the fact that you should discuss your convictions. Now, it's very much okay to discuss your convictions. Permit me to give a personal example. I remember when a guy was trying to tell a girl of how much he liked her and how much he desired to get married to her and stuff. And while narrating the story to her and narrating his God said to her, he asked a very important question, and he said, what has God been saying to you about me? What has God been saying to you about me? So that is, let's share convictions. Have you heard anything that pertains to this relationship? And of course, she shared some things which served as convictions. Now, let me give you another example. Imagine I had a dream, a very specific dream. I mean, in my dream, A and B happened, C and D happened, and someone else had the exact same dream. Now, we didn't have any discussion before, no exposure, nothing to make us, think the same way that particular night and dream the same way that particular night. But for some reason, we had the exact same dream, and then we discussed that dream together. If before I was doubting the meaning or the purpose or the source, or if that dream really occurred, by hearing it from someone else, it strengthens my conviction. Now, let's go to a biblical example. Remember when Nebuchadnezzar had a dream and he was looking for the interpretation of his dream? Now, Nebuchadnezzar didn't tell the wise men and counselors and magicians the dream that he had. He didn't also tell Daniel the dream that he had. Why? Because he wanted them to genuinely go and get that dream and also the interpretation. Now, Daniel came, he prayed to God, he had the same dream that Nebuchadnezzar had and also had the interpretation. Now, when Daniel is telling Nebuchadnezzar the dream that he had and the interpretation, Nebuchadnezzar has no other choice but to believe. Why? Because that's something to strengthen his conviction. The fact that Daniel had the same dream that he had, he wouldn't have to doubt his interpretation, which is the reason why Nebuchadnezzar didn't share the dream in the first place. The point I'm trying to make is that sharing your convictions with each other, that is, you hearing the other person's conviction, you hearing the other person's why, you hearing the other person's God said, also strengthen yours, because there's a possibility that you find similarities in what God is telling the both of you. On the other hand, when God is telling someone an entirely different thing and he's telling you something else, you can also tell that, okay, maybe this is not supposed to be. But a way to build your convictions is by sharing your convictions with each other, and it helps you to be more sure, it helps you to be more firm in knowing that God is pointing you in a particular direction. To bring this to a close, the reason why we're having this topic is because it's very, very paramount. Like I said earlier, it's possible for you to actually be in the right relationship, that is, courting the right person, your God ordained person, the right person in any way, and still doubt. And so it's very important to have convictions. The other reason is because, as you proceed in marriage, which is actually the goal, storms may come your way. And building convictions is like someone who built the house on the rock as opposed to someone who built the house on the sand. Now, both of them may have used the right equipment to build the house. They may have applied the right principles to build the house. Even in fact, the person who built on the sand may have used better equipment in building the house. But when the storm comes, it's the person who built the house on the rock that is more likely to stand than the person who built the house on the sand. What am I trying to say? Convictions are like building on a rock. We need convictions as we journey on, and it helps to strengthen, our resolve as we commit to our partners in staying with them and loving them. Another reason is because as we go on in marriage, and in relationships and purpose, people change. People change, circumstances change, challenges come, and when all of this face you, such as storms, putting them in the bracket of storms, you need to be sure that you're with the right person, and you need to have built your convictions because it will test your resolve. And so convictions are very important. I pray that, as we've listened to this and as we go on in our endeavors in life, that God helps us to build marital convictions, strong marital convictions, such that when we are faced with storms and we're faced with challenges, we're able to withstand them and we will stand strong in God. If you have enjoyed this video, please do well to subscribe, do well to like, and also share with your friends. There are links to other videos that we've done on this channel just beneath in the description, so please you can check them out and watch them. Thank you for joining in. God bless you. Until next time, bye.